Hello there, and welcome to the Time Machine with Trish and Mike. I'm Mike, and
I'm Trish.
Because this is the Trish and Mike Time Machine, and that makes sense that there would be a Trish speaking as well. How are you doing today, Trish? Are you having a good day today? Happy New Year.
I am having a good day. Happy New Year's.
2020 is finally about to be behind us. Boy, didn't seem like we'd ever get there at this point.
Oh God, it's been a snail pace at the end here.
It's been so much fun. Think of all the fun things we did this year.
I spent a lot of time indoors.
Got to reorganize closets and pantries, and
we got to express our personalities with, fun and funky masks. That was cool.
And we got to go absolutely nowhere. But saved a lot on travel. That was good.
True. I mean, airfare is expensive.
Yeah. Fun year.
Fun year. Weeped a little bit in the shower, drank a little wine once in a while. It was great.
Well, lost all concept of time. Have no idea what day or week or hour it is right now. Are we recording this at 1 a.m.? Are we recording this at 2 in the afternoon? Who knows?
Who knows anymore?
But the one thing we do know is we're glad you're here and that you hit download and are listening to our very first episode. We are glad you're here, and hopefully you will like it, and hopefully you will come back next week, because otherwise it's just me and Trish talking on a Zoom call, and not that there's anything wrong with that. That's fine.
Yeah, but we're trying to birth a project here at the end of 2020. We're trying to make something beautiful going into 2021.
Yes, because we all know we need something to look forward to in 2021. And this podcast is going to be it, right?
Yeah, it is.
So, with it being New Year's Eve, I can't help but think that, New Year's Eve celebrations obviously are going to be a lot different this year. And the biggest New Year's Eve celebration is Times Square in New York. And the very first ball drop happened on December 31st, 1907.
1907, really?
Yeah, were you were alive back then, right, Trish?
Yeah, I'm that old. I mean, my students like to think I'm that old.
So the first New Year's Eve celebration was, as I said, in 1907, was organized by Adolph Ochs, who was the owner of the New York Times. For several years, he'd been putting on fireworks shows on New Year's Eve to promote that the New York Times had moved their headquarters to Times Square, which is how it got the name Times Square. The good thing, though, is they are still going to have a, albeit greatly reduced, celebration in Times Square this evening. They're going to be hosting first responders and other essential workers and their families.
I did read that. And I thought, how nice is that? Like, I know it's still going to be socially distanced.
They're going to be in their own little areas with masks and everything, but it's nice. I think it's a fitting that the heroes of 2020 get to enjoy the spectacle that is New York.
Yeah, this nice little celebration. That's pretty cool.
The only thing I don't know is, are they... well, of course, they're going to throw off all the confetti that they always do, but I'm wondering if they're going to drop the 3,000 or so pounds that they normally do, or are they going to...
They just get totally, flooded with confetti.
They actually have 100 confetti dispersal engineers to assist with releasing the confetti.
Wow. I wonder how much those engineers get paid. Is it just like a once a year gig?
I don't know. Is it like throwing the beads off on a Mardi Gras float? Like how do you get that gig?
I don't know. It's like a bucket list item.
Yeah, that would be fun to do.
Can you imagine putting that on your resume? It's like, I am a, what did you call it? Confetti
dispersal engineer.
Dispersal engineer on your resume. It's so fancy.
I'd hire them.
I would too.
If nothing else, I'm going to hire you just to hear that story.
Be like, how did you get this title?
Right. And can you get me one next year? The funny thing about the confetti is it's actually larger than normal confetti. that people may think of, like, you go to a party and, confetti is real
Mm.
tiny. This confetti is a lot bigger because visitors in Times Square can write notes and messages of hope and stuff like that on them.
Oh, I didn't know that was a tradition.
Mm-hmm. They,
That's pretty
and
cool.
if
Hmm.
if anybody out there listening knows a confetti dispersal engineer and
Please let us know.
wants to send us a DM on Instagram at Trish and Mike show. No,
No, time machine with Trish and Mike.
yes,
That's our
the
Instagram.
world's longest Instagram handle at Time Machine with Trish and Mike. Send us a DM if you're a confetti dispersal engineer. We would love to A, thank you for your service, and B, ask you a ton of questions.
Like, I'm very curious about this size. But I mean, to be fair, I've never really paid much attention. I mean, it's as a Canadian, it's always been a thing. And I grew up on the East Coast before moving to the West Coast. And you heard about it. It was kind of on the TV in the background if you might have had it, but it wasn't like a big thing growing up. So I wasn't really paying attention.
It is a big thing here, and several other cities have their own various drops that they do at midnight, which we'll get to in a second. But speaking of big things, do you know how big the ball is?
Ooh, I do not. I'm very curious.
The current ball, first used in 2009, and it is 12 feet tall.
Wow.
Mhm.
Pretty big.
Yeah, so that's 3.7 meters for our Canadian friends who are listening.
Oh, I appreciate it. Even though this is one of the rare instances where, as a Canadian, we do actually use imperialism over metric.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is that like an Alberta thing, or is that like a...
No, it's like a Canadian thing. Like, if someone asks you what your height is, I'll say I'm 5'2". I won't say I'm, 1.3 meters or whatever it converts to, although that is on my driver's license.
I forgot to wish you a happy National Short Person Day.
Thank you. I am...
I apologize. I should have done that back on December 21st.
How could you? So insensitive about
I'm
my...
so terrible. I send you a Christmas card, but I don't send you a National Short Person Day card. I'm going to fix that next year.
I expect it in the mail next year. That's right.
Maybe I'll mail it out now so you'll get it in time.
Oh, that's right. With all the postal backup.
Yes, because as of this recording, you have not got my Christmas card yet, and I sent that thing out about 3 weeks ago.
No, I have not got your Christmas card. I have not got any parcels from significant others. Well, significant other. There's not others.
I was like, what kind of show are we doing now? I have so many more questions.
And my parcels were late, so cards, and I am just waiting for New Year's before I send out my cards, because I figured I'll give the postal workers, God bless them.
Yes, hats off to them.
Because I know they're busting, but man, that's a lot of mail with how Christmas has gone down this year.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of lots of things, the one thing that always impresses me about the Times Square is the cleanup. That thing is completely cleaned up by morning. All that confetti, all the trash, everything is picked up.
I can't even imagine.
I mean, they have a crew that comes in overnight and they just bust their butts and they get it done.
Well, and they have to work so fast, because I'm sure on a regular New Year's Eve, there's thousands upon thousands of people partying until who knows what time, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and yet it's still cleaned up by business time the next morning.
That's and it's a sense of pride to the workers there in New York that they get it done, that, we get it cleaned up and they're open for business.
Yep. That's incredible.
Do you know how much the ball weighs? This surprised me, I have to admit.
So we're 12 feet across and in height, right?
And it contains a computerized LED lighting system, and contains 2,688 Waterford crystal triangle panels.
There's crystals in there? Waterford crystals? Wow. Yep. I'm going to guess that it's going to weigh 130 pounds. I'm going to be way off.
You're totally way off.
But I'm too light or I'm too heavy?
Oh, you're way too light. You are way too light. But see, here's the thing, because
isn't it attached though? It's attached to something. It doesn't have to be heavy to just stay there.
It's on a pole.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, you have nothing to base it off of because you've never seen this thing, you've
Right.
never touched it, you don't know how heavy a panel is, you don't. The ball weighs
Oh, shit.
11,875 pounds.
I'm so off. Oh my goodness. I'm
11,
thinking it's going to be like a lightweight material just to sit on that pole. Oh,
11,875 pounds, and it sits up there year round.
wait, I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
It is interesting to say the least. Speaking of interesting, so as I mentioned earlier, there's different knockoff droppings that occur around the country. Some of which make sense, like Atlanta drops a peach because Georgia's the
And that
peach
is
state.
right. I do know that from movies. I see the peach at the end of the recorded in Georgia.
Like The Walking Dead or whatever. It says
Yeah.
filmed in Georgia, and you see
Yeah.
that. Charlotte, North Carolina is the Queen City, so they drop a crown.
Okay. I see the connection.
Nashville, country music, they drop a music note. Here in Florida, a lot of cities drop orange or pineapples or tangerines or other citrus fruits down poles. So some of these make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to some of the more unique ones.
Ooh, I am feeling like as a Canadian, I am learning a lot here.
There's actually a Canadian American connection on New Year's Eve.
Ooh, do tell.
So in Eastport, Maine,
Uh-huh.
they drop a sardine at midnight.
Okay.
But they also, at 11 o'clock, they drop a red maple leaf
Oh,
because it is visible on the other side of Passamaquoddy Bay. And I know somebody will DM me and tell me I said that wrong. So that the folks over in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, because they're an
right,
hour
because they're
ahead.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's very sweet. So neighborly.
See, we're so thoughtful to our Canadian friends.
I do love that.
So we also have in Tallapoosa, Georgia, they drop a stuffed possum named Spencer.
I love that it's not only a stuffed possum, but that it has a name. Continue.
To me, that was the best part. There was a name. Mount Olive, North Carolina, drops a pickle.
What? They're missing a totally perfect moment to drop an olive. Why are they going with a pickle?
Well, I will tell you why. Because here in America, Mount Olive is a pickle company, and that is their headquarters.
Mount Olive is a pickle company.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. I would really like now to have a jar of Mount Olive pickles.
I'll talk to Santa Claus and see if we can get you some for Christmas 2021. Maybe we can make that happen. We also have in Easton, Pennsylvania, they drop a Crayola crayon.
I'm assuming this is now the headquarters of Crayola.
You're learning. See,
Oh.
Here in America, we are all about capitalism and marketing. Okay, so let me interrupt this for a second. Canadian question for you: is it crayon or is it crown? How do you?
No, so we have crayons. We call them crayons. But what throws me all the time is when I say, "Do you have pencil crayons?" And you all call them colored pencils.
Okay.
And I'm like, pencil what is it? Colored pencil. Yeah, we have pencil crayons, and we have Crayola markers. Whereas I have heard in the States that they're called felts.
I think we just call them. Now, I'm not an artist, so I'm gonna totally probably call them the wrong thing. We have like felt tip markers.
Yeah, so felt tip markers, and I only have called them like markers, like Crayola markers.
Crayola markers.
Yeah, never felts.
Interesting. We also have a Bayer aspirin tablet in Myerstown, Pennsylvania. Do you want to take a guess who might have a manufacturing plant there?
Would it be Bayer?
Bingo. You're learning. Dothan, Alabama, which is a city I have actually been to. It is in southern Alabama. I went there when I was like 8 or something. We had relatives that lived there. They drop a peanut.
Okay, that makes sense. Peanuts are grown there.
Boise, Idaho, they drop potato.
I've almost been to Boise, Idaho.
I love how the key word in that sentence was almost. It's like, I'm going to go to Boise. No, I'm not.
No, we made it as far as...
to us from Boise. We are so glad that you're listening, and we love your potatoes.
I really would like to go. We made it as far as Libby Dam, Idaho, and then turned back around.
Okay, then.
Yeah, we just decided to drive into the United States for an afternoon.
Because
yeah,
not? Yeah.
yeah.
And I think my favorite in Cincinnati, Ohio, they do not drop something.
Okay. Do they raise something?
Several cities do raise things.
Oh, interesting.
But in Cincinnati, Ohio, they throw something.
They throw something.
They throw a pig.
They
not
throw
not like a live pig. It's like
a stuffed pig. Like a stuffy, a stuffed animal.
I don't know. They throw the pig because now when pigs fly is an accurate statement.
Yes, that's okay. Oh, okay.
How else to start the new year but with a pig flying, right?
Pig flying. No, I think 2020 was enough of a crazy year that going into 2021, we don't need pigs flying.
I think here in a few hours, a pig's going to fly in Cincinnati. I don't know what the limitations on the public gathering will be there, but I'm sure even if there is not a formal pig throwing flying event, somebody in Cincinnati is going to throw a pig tonight.
Everyone opens their doors at midnight and just throws a pig out.
It's going to happen. Somebody's got like a Porky Pig plushie that they're going to just go toss in their backyard or something. A pig will fly tonight in Cincinnati. I do believe that.
That's funny. I want to hear. I hope someone's listening from Cincinnati and tells us if they've thrown their pig.
Yes.
Maybe it'll be like extra good luck to throw the pig. Maybe I should throw a pig just in honor.
Yeah. There you go.
I don't know.
And if you're in Cincinnati and you throw a pig, please tell us what your pig's name is.
Yeah. I want to know size, color, name.
Yeah. Because the people in Tallapoosa, Georgia had named the possum. And
Spencer.
Are you going to be outdone by somebody in Tallapoosa, Georgia?
I just like that name. It's excellent.
Trish, I tell you, the southeastern United States, we have some fun names.
I got to get down there.
Yes, it makes for a great road trip. All these little small towns.
I'm guessing then, do you have to go and retrieve the pig? Is it bad luck to take pig back inside the house? I would like to know. I have questions, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, come through for us.
What was that? There was like a radio ad or a television show, something about Cincinnati.
Oh, I'm WKRP in Cincinnati was a sitcom back in like the 80s. Is that what you're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how bad luck picking up the tossed pig will be, but 2020 maybe wasn't the luckiest year for either one of us, but at least we're not starting the year in federal prison like Alcatraz, which opened on January 1st, 1934.
Yep. Alcatraz Island, San Francisco, California becomes a U.S. federal prison on this day. And of course, lots of people have really cool stories about Alcatraz, or they have, watched things on television about the ghost stories and things like that. But we have some very interesting facts about Alcatraz, right? The first thing that comes to mind, of course, is that dramatic escape by the 5 inmates that occurred. The interesting thing, though, is that there are no confirmed prisoner escapes from the actual records of Alcatraz. They will not admit that the individuals escaped, which is kind of, I thought, funny that they're not willing to admit that the men at least got out of the prison. They did escape, because it's unsolved whether or not they made it, right?
Well, I think this opens an interesting question. What is defined as an escape? Do we count that you got physically outside the building and put your feet in the water as an escape? Because I think that's technically an escape. You may not have survived and made it to land, but I think that you technically did escape at that point.
Well, and I think they said, so there's a total of 36 inmates that have supposedly, I love that they put supposedly, escaped the escape-proof Alcatraz. And of those convicts, 23 were captured right away. 6 were actually shot to death and 2 drowned. You're like, And the other 5 that went missing are presumed drowned. So that includes Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, whose 1962 attempted breakout then inspires the 1979 film Escape from Alcatraz. And they are the individuals that chipped through the wall and created the rubber dinghy out of the rubber raincoats. And their belongings and part of the boat were actually found floating, but there's no bodies or other personal items that were recovered. And I have actually seen a really interesting documentary where there's theories that they actually managed to make it down to South America.
Interesting. Here in the States, I would imagine the show airs up in Canada as well. The show Mythbusters.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had on the Discovery Channel.
Yes, it is on the Discovery Channel, or well, it was when they were making them.
Right.
Shout out to Adam Savage and Jamie Heineman, who I know are listening today to this episode.
But of course,
thanks,
what else
guys.
are they going to be listening to?
They actually did this as a myth, and in fact, this was one myth they were really looking forward to doing on the show, because they do the show in San Francisco. It's like this is the iconic San Francisco myth, and so they tested it. They made a boat out of raincoats and everything, and they determined that, they went back and looked at the current in the bay and everything, that the conditions from that night, and they determined that it was plausible that they could have made it to the land and survived. And once you do that, all bets are off.
Yeah, that's true. And there's actually a swim that happens. Well, I'm assuming it's not happening this year because of COVID, but there's a 1.5 mile swim annually called the Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon. So there are individuals that have proven that they can swim it, that the water is not as cold as they, I guess, anticipate for the human body to not be able to survive and swim. And the fun fact is Alcatraz was the first federal prison for a long time that actually only had hot water showers. So to keep the inmates conditioned to being in the warmer water, which I thought was kind of interesting.
That is interesting. Alcatraz originally, before it became a U.S. federal prison, the U.S. Army actually used it as a military prison.
They did.
In the early 1900s for a brief period.
People automatically want to think that it was like the worst individuals or the worst criminals in the American system that were put in Alcatraz, but it's actually, it was any inmates that they deemed requiring conformity, that they were just basically needing some tough love, and so they would get sent to Alcatraz. But the prisoners themselves, a lot of people actually requested to go to Alcatraz because the single bed cells were highly, desired commodities in the federal prison system.
That makes sense, because if I'm going to be in here for a long time, I don't want to be stuck with Timmy, the annoying tool bag.
Right. Or, shivved in your sleep by somebody paid off. If you were high ranking like Capone.
True. Who was there and played a banjo?
He played a banjo. They allowed him to do that because mentally he was going downhill pretty quick. And so they thought allowing him to have some musical therapy, I guess, would be highly desirable for his moods.
You know what else is desirable in prison and very valuable commodity?
What would that be?
Cigarettes.
Very true, right? That's the currency in prison.
Yes, among other forms of currency. So cigarette advertising was banned on American television in January 1st, 1971.
Right, and that's any form of advertising, right? Commercials.
It was specifically banned on American television at that point.
Oh, television.
Up until the 90s, and we'll get into this here in a second, cigarette advertising just couldn't be on TV. You could still run them in magazines. You would still see them up in like arenas or stadiums, billboards as you're driving down the road, that sort of thing. But the big thing that cigarette companies did was they expanded into motorsports.
Which is, kind of an interesting sport to have cigarettes promoting.
It is, but it was actually kind of smart for them because it allowed them to get on TV. One of the biggest things, RJ Reynolds, through their Winston brand, they began sponsoring what became known as the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. And so, every race, welcome to the NASCAR Winston Cup Series live at the Daytona 500, blah, blah, blah. So Winston, 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 you're getting pounded constantly with Winston all the time, up until 2003 when their deal finally expired as part of the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement in 1998. The major tobacco companies settled and agreed to, quote, not take any action directly or indirectly to target youth with advertising, promotion, or marketing of tobacco products.
So I feel like that was like a big turning year for a lot of countries kind of changing their tobacco laws.
I think so. I think when we got into the 90s and we started learning the negative effects of smoking, there was a big societal shift towards that. And in addition to Winston Cup, they also sponsored NHRA Winston drag racing and would also sponsor race teams in MotoGP, kart, IndyCar, sports car racing, like you name it. Cigarettes, if you just Google race cars from the 70s or 80s, you're going to see cigarette companies being advertised on the cars. It's interesting. They still technically do sponsor the Ferrari team in Formula One as we sit here and record this in 2020 going into 2021.
And how are they able to get around that?
Yeah, so this is interesting because they have been sponsored primarily by Marlboro since 1993. Okay. And over the years, as some of these laws changed, especially in the UK, where a lot of the Formula One races are ran, the limits and restrictions on what could be on the cars has changed. So at various times, they've just had like the Marlboro logo without the word Marlboro. They've just had like that red kind of triangle looking thing that's on top. Sometimes they've had like a barcode there.
Oh, so if you
so it
scan it or like, QR code?
Yeah, it wasn't like a QR code. It was just like, it would just look like a barcode, but it was just like a subtle thing because you're seeing like the red top of a Marlboro logo with this barcode. It just like kind of mentally triggers in your mind that that's still Marlboro.
Oh, so sneaky.
They are. And then so back in 2019, Scuderia Ferrari and Philip Morris announced a 45-year partnership promoting Mission Winnow. So like if you see Ferrari now in F1, it's sponsored by Mission Winnow. What is Mission Winnow, you may ask?
I am asking that as a non-sporty person.
Mission Winnow is a global initiative to create engagement around the role of science, technology, and innovation as a powerful force for good in any industry.
Oh.
I have absolutely no idea what that means, and I could not find any description other than a bunch of generic buzzwords to explain that to me. But still to this day,
really good.
It sounds fabulous.
You're like, I can get behind that. You're like, yes, I do want to support all of those things.
Yeah, it all sounds great. Also, buy our cigarettes.
Yeah, like.
So, and how is it in Canada? Because I'm sure this is one of many things that we'll discover as we go through this show, the differences between U.S. and Canada. What is cigarette advertising like in Canada?
So it's been a similar thing where it's been slowly kind of phased out in terms of who could view it. But recently, in the last couple of years, they have actually made it illegal for you to see the cigarettes in the store. So if you ask for, say you go and you're like, hey, can I have a pack of Players Light? Which I think is similar to, what do we say, your cool something cigarettes? Because we have different brands, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure there's different brands as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like I know
I forget. I looked it up. Like Marlboro.
Winston. I'm trying to think of like the major brands that I see when I go
to. And Winston doesn't sound familiar for me.
Yeah, I think
that's like a new thing.
That may be more of a regional thing because Winston is like based out of North Carolina, which is I think really where the big NASCAR connection came from the 70s, because NASCAR, especially back then, was really just a southeastern sport,
which would make a lot of sense,
right? So it's like, hey, local company, hey, help us out, sell some cigarettes, we'll send you some money to make a nice trophy to give somebody at the end of the year.
Yay, cigarettes and car.
It was a nice trophy. I liked it. The old Winston Cup trophy. Google it.
So
Not
I
while you're
will have to Google
driving,
that.
because
Not while
that
I'm
would be
driving.
bad.
That's not
Yeah,
good.
that would not be
I'll,
good.
I'll wait. I'll
Yeah.
be a good person. But no, like here, you actually, if like you go to the store, you they have to actually lift open the panel and take the pack out, and there's only signage in terms of warning. So um, growing up, when I was 15, one of my best jobs ever. And I say that I loved that job. I was what was called a student tobacco inspection agent. And
Interesting.
it was for the Nova Scotia Department of Health, because it's all health is a provincial issue here in Canada. And there was a loophole in the law where if you were under 19, because you have to be 19 in Nova Scotia to buy cigarettes or alcohol, if you were under 19, you could technically legally buy cigarettes, but under the law, the store, it was illegal for them to sell it to you. So kind of using this loophole as a 15 and 16-year-old, because they didn't want to trick anyone. They were trying to be fair in terms of these compliance checks. I would go into a store and I would have to look for all the signage and then ask for a pack of cigarettes. And if they asked for my ID, I didn't even have a driver's license at this point. I had a Nova Scotia identification card, which should have been, warning, warning, this person shouldn't really be allowed to buy cigarettes. But they would check your age and they would either be willing to sell or they'd say, get lost, kid, like you're not old enough. And then I would have to go back out into the truck with my boss, who was an ex-RCMP officer, and we would fill out our report and go on to the next store. That was pretty fun, but I would have to pinpoint all the signage and look for the person's name and write down what I was trying to buy and the price of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's at 15. That's really a pretty cool job.
At 15 and 16, it was a really good job, and I got paid like $15 an hour, which was crazy at the time in Nova Scotia, and I got my meals covered.
Oh,
And I just drove around with my boss and we chit-chatted, and then I'd hop out of his truck and try and buy cigarettes.
sounds like that's a pretty good gig.
It was pretty good.
Now to kind of backtrack for a second, if you don't mind, to help out our American listeners who may not know, you dropped an acronym in there. Now I knew what it was, but some may not. You said the RCMP.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the RCMP, the Royal Mounted Canadian Police, right?
Yes.
So, or the Royal Canadian Mounted
Police.
Yes.
I was going to say, wait, I think
I'm not even going to correct myself. Yeah, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So they are our national police service. In Canada, we have National Police Service, and then in some of the larger cities, like in Edmonton, we have the Edmonton Police Service. And in Ontario, they have the OP, the Ontario Provincial Police.
RCMP is, for the Americans who are trying to picture this, the Dudley Do Right is basically
Dudley Do Right. If you watch Due South, the television show about the RCMP officer who was in Chicago, you might remember, but they're wearing the red outfit, the red serge, and often on horseback. You can go to the musical ride and you can see the Mounties on the horses, and they have a show that they put on.
There's a musical ride? Is this
it's called the musical ride?
Is there like a Canadian Disney World that I don't know about?
No, sadly, you just get to sit in the stands and you watch them basically do all of these really interesting parade tricks with the horses. So they go around the arena.
So it's kind of like a dressage or some equestrian.
Yeah, it's like an equestrian show.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the horses have to be all of a certain type of horse, and they have to be like pure black, and they are all in the stables in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. And I've been to that stable because I love horses. So I had my cousin drive me out there, and we got to visit the stables and see the horses.
Is there like a particular breed that they typically the RCMP
I'd have to
use?
Google what it is.
Or do they use several breeds? It's not like here in America, a lot of times we have bomb sniffing dogs and stuff, or canine units and that sort of thing. So I didn't know if there was a specific breed perhaps or anything that they were like known for, or like here in America we have the Budweiser Clydesdales,
right?
I didn't know if there was like an iconic breed of horse.
Apparently is a French Canadian horse. Cheval Canadien.
Now do they have to like give the horses like Evian water or something, or can they just drink regular water? Do they need French water?
It's probably water out of the Ottawa River. Trudeau. It borders on Quebec. It borders on the province of Quebec, on Gatineau Hall. So there'd be some French influence.
Gotta be honest, I don't actually have a transition to our next topic, so we're just gonna have to jump into it.
We're going to jump in.
Well, yes, because we definitely need to hurry up and get this birthday greeting out of the way
Yes, that's right.
because we
It's a
want to
very
wish a very special happy birthday coming up on January 2nd to
Yep.
Miss Kane Tanaka.
Yep. She is currently the oldest living person on Earth. And she has been the oldest person since July 22nd, 2018, and will turn 118 years old in 2 days. That's incredible.
That is, and she has lived quite a life. She had paratyphoid fever when she was 35.
What?
She had pancreatic cancer and underwent surgery for that when she was 45. She had gallstones removed when she was 76.
I was going to be like, if it ended with another 5, it's like, lady, we got to get past these like decade birthdays.
Exactly. She had cataract surgery when she was 90.
Ooh.
And when she was 103, she had colorectal cancer.
Oh my goodness. And she's still kicking.
She's still kicking.
Wow. So what is she on record as saying what she thinks is the reason she's lived so long?
She did an interview back when she was 114.
Okay. So pretty recent, 3 years ago.
Saying that sentence alone is awkward. Back when she was 114.
Yeah. Getting interviewed.
She said she would like to live to be 120, and she credits family, sleep, and hope for longevity.
Oh, and hope. That's so precious.
Now,
sleep. I'm already screwed.
Yeah. So she is the oldest living person. So this, of course, sent me down the rabbit hole, and I had to get to the bottom of this. The oldest independently verified person on record was Jean Calment. She was born February 21st, 1875, and died on August 4th, 1997. She was a resident of Arras, France. She lived to be 122 years, 164 days.
What? 122?
122
Oh my
years.
goodness. And almost, right? And 200, how many days? You said 200 and
164. So
164 days.
Almost 122 and a half.
Half. Yeah. That's crazy.
Now, like here in America, when you're a kid, kids get really excited about half birthdays. Like I'm 3
Is that
and a
a
half.
thing?
I don't think really they throw parties, but kids are like, like if you ask a kid who's like say 3 years and 7 months old, how old are you? I'm 3 and a half. Like they want you to know
that's a half.
I'm not 3. I'm 3 and a half now. So like I wonder when you get to be like 110, do you start doing I'm 110 and a half, or do you literally start counting it by days? Like I'm 110 and 314 days.
I would be totally bragging on that. I would be letting everyone know exactly how old I am.
Right. Like you go wheeling by somebody in the nursing home. I'm 112 and 119. How are you?
How old are you?
Oh, you're only 82.
Well, aren't you just a youngin'?
There has been some skepticism, though, about Miss Calment.
Oh, really? Why?
Yes, there have been some researchers that have done and have presented whole presentations on how they believe that the real Jean Clement died in 1934, and that her daughter Yvonne, who
has
was born
impersonated
in 1898, assumed her mother's identity. And if so, Yvonne, who was born in 1898, would have only been 99 when she died, which in and of itself is
it's still good
accomplishment. But they have other researchers have gone and verified some things, and they believe her to have been the oldest living person.
Oh my goodness! So why do they think the daughter in person, like other than bragging rights, right? There's not really a reason to just take over your mother's identity as the oldest person.
The only thing I was able to possibly think that she would have had reason to assume her mother's identity is because her mother came or married into a wealthy family. So maybe
she was still getting money.
Maybe somehow something. I don't know.
Interesting. Some sort of spousal support or like
Some
yearly allowance given.
maybe
Interesting.
there had to have been something to do with that there
Huh.
because
That's fascinating.
it creates an interesting theory.
So we got to really hope for Miss Tanaka that she makes it past. She says she wants to live to be 120. We got to really hope that this lady gets to like 123 and become the oldest.
We're rooting for you, Miss Tanaka.
I'm rooting.
Hang in there.
Hang in there and happy birthday.
Yes. And so the oldest American was Sarah Knaus. She was born September 24th, 1880, and died, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
December 30th, 1999.
Wow.
She
almost
couldn't
made
make it 2 more days, and she could have made it to the millennium.
Oh.
Bless her.
Well, it was probably all the fear about Y2K.
That could have done it.
Right? I mean, people were really stressing out. I was only 15 at the time, and it seemed really scary.
I just remember, people back then thought anything could have happened. Planes were going to start falling out of the sky at midnight. The power was going to shut off.
I remember people being like, your toaster's going to explode. The bank's going to eat your money. And it was like, okay, I'm 15 and have zero control over any of these things. My brother was working as an intern in the Diefenbunker, was an underground security. It's now a museum in Ottawa. And he was on the team that was supposed to prepare Canada in case something did happen. So he was probably reassuring my parents and kind of giving them whatever
little scoop. He was like, don't worry.
He could.
He was like, don't worry. We got an extra supply of maple syrup. We're going to make it through this.
We'll be okay. Don't worry, Mom and Dad.
He knew where the stash was, up in Hamilton, Ontario or something. There's some bunker somewhere.
The secret tunnel.
Yes.
Well, and there's what was it? The bootlegging tunnels in I think it's in Saskatchewan somewhere. Now it's drawing a blank on me, but it was where all the bootlegging went with the alcohol during Prohibition. There's probably secret stashes of maple syrup all over the place.
Yeah, I'm sure that there is. And bootlegging is kind of how NASCAR got its start.
Oh, we tied it back.
Yeah. It was basically, because you'd have to have your car souped up so you could outrun the revenuers and the police and all that. And they finally, Big Bill France put together Racing League. He's like, hey, y'all got these fast cars. Let's put them on a racetrack. And
let's see who's the best one.
Exactly. Let's see who's the fastest.
Well, and not to be outdone, but the oldest Canadian. I love that we have the oldest Canadian people ever. Ranked number 1 is Marie-Louise Milieu. She's 117 years and 230 days.
And I totally want to thank you for saying that because I was going to butcher that last name.
Oh, French names. As long as we don't get into Ukrainian names, because I grew up on the East Coast and we have a lot of Scottish and Dutch. I was not exposed to the Ukrainian culture until I moved out west. So Polish and Ukrainian names throw me.
The oldest man, I found this interesting because there's the whole, who lives longer, women or men.
Right.
The oldest man on record was, and I'm going to butcher this, so please, if you're listening from Japan, send me a translation on this. Hiroman Kimura. He died back in 2013. He was 116 years and 54 days, and he is only the 19th oldest person.
So all the others are women.
All the 18 oldest people on record were women.
I would be curious to see if these individuals were married or single, because I have read a study that says men, if they're married, will gain 10 years. But if women are married, they actually lose something like 6 or 7 years.
Well, maybe if you so then if you marry twice or you divorce once, does that throw off the ratio? Yeah. There's got to be some
do I have to be concerned about my ratio now, Mike?
Right, you need to determine, okay, if you get divorced by a certain age, does that give you your 6 years back? And then is it transitive property? You've passed the 5 years on to the there's got to be
the ex-husband gets to keep some of those years because I want those years back, man.
Somebody has done some research on that. There has to be.
But it's do you really want those last 10 years as a man? Those could be not great years. I'm thinking Dennis Leary's stand-up act.
As a woman, are you glad that you get to check out 5 years earlier?
That is true. That's a positive way of looking at it.
You're welcome.
It's like marriage is so great. I'm so happy for that.
We're doing you a favor.
Those are the years you don't want anyway.
Exactly, right?
That's
Unless
so funny.
unless you're like Mr. Naka, who is
Well,
still getting it done. So good for
yeah,
her.
living a good life. Then we have another birthday that's actually today is Val Kilmer, born in Los Angeles.
Yes, Mr. Kilmer, the
Yes.
Iceman from
Right.
Top Gun.
Top Gun. Well,
The
and
Batman from Batman Forever. And
right?
probably some other movie with a man in it that I'm not thinking of right now that I could throw out to.
I wish all I could think of is Tombstone, but that doesn't have man in it. I've thrown it.
Yeah, I couldn't think of any. Yeah, I got nothing for you.
I got nothing.
So what are your thoughts on Mr. Kilmer?
I mean, I really like him as an actor. And then I read a bunch of rumors that he's like not so wonderful on set, that he can be a bit of a diva.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That he's actually scared directors away. So in the Batman film that he's in, the director actually quit. And rumor is it in interviews that he said he was driven to leave by having a nervous breakdown because of Val Kilmer on set. It's like, oh man, that is not a glowing review.
Well, America does not give him a glowing review as Batman because in a recent poll, America's favorite Batman actor of the 5 actors who have played Batman in major motion pictures, do you want to guess where he ranked on that list?
See, this hurts my heart because I actually really liked his Batman performance, but
I liked his Bruce. His Batman was okay because this is the thing when you're Batman, you're playing two characters.
You have to be a good Bruce, yeah.
Right, and you have to be a good Batman. It's like people dog on Batman and Robin with George Clooney, but Clooney makes a good Bruce Wayne because he's that suave, debonair kind of like. That's a good Bruce Wayne. It's not his fault the rest of the movie is complete hot garbage.
Right. It's not his fault that they totally changed the suit and
bat nipples.
Bat nipples, I know.
I mean,
that's bad.
If
I was trying to be tactful there, Mike. I was trying to, protect the bat.
When they're out there in your face in the movie, especially when you're watching it in 4K, you can't not notice the bat nipples. I'm just saying.
Oh, goodness.
If I ever meet George Clooney, I'd be like, hi, Mr. Clooney, I'm a fan, love your work, Up in the Air, great, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, loved you on ER. Can I please have my $750 back for going to see Batman and Robin?
Like, oh, he'd sadly shell it out to you because it's not the first time someone's asked. Oh, but you're right. He did play a good Bruce. But I think Val played a good Bruce, and I do think he played a pretty good Batman. People just didn't want a blonde Bruce.
So I'm a bit biased because Batman Forever, for all its flaws, still has some good stuff. I mean, that movie is loaded in a lot of other ways. You've got Jim Carrey as the Riddler. You've got Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. You've got Nicole Kidman, Chase.
Right?
So it's
And I thought the chemistry between Val and Nicole was really good.
That's because Nicole's amazing.
Nicole is amazing. I will not deny that.
That's not, because of Val. That's all Nicole right there. I'm just saying. But again, maybe I'm biased. Well, regardless of who you want to give credit to the chemistry to, hopefully you've enjoyed the chemistry between Trish and I on this first episode. And we want to thank you for making it this far because you've made it to the end. And if you didn't make it this far, well, I hope you wake up one morning and pour orange juice in your coffee instead of creamer because, that's what you get for not listening. Yeah, exactly. Because you didn't make it to the end of this episode, which also means you're not hearing me insult you. But, hey, so be it.
So be it. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the maiden voyage of the time machine. And we just are really, really thankful that we get the opportunity to share a little bit of nerdy history with you.
Absolutely. We look forward to having you join us next time. Every Thursday, look for a new episode of The Time Machine with Trish and Mike.